All right. Three, two, one. Hey, everyone, and welcome to a special episode of the I-5 Corridor podcast. Tyson Alger here, joined by Justin Ferguson from the Auburn Observer, which you can find also on Substack. Justin covered Bo Nix's entire career. He's Oregon's new quarterback, and wanted to have Justin on to talk a little bit about Bo, and then also to maybe give me a little bit, maybe some tips about how to keep the Substack thing rolling. Justin, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, always a pleasure talking to you, Tyson. And yeah, Bo Nix to Oregon. I don't think I would have had that on my bingo card at any point these past few months, but here it is.
Yeah, I gave myself kind of a Twitter reprieve yesterday. It's been a busy couple weeks here in the
Yeah.
Oregon world. There's been a couple coaching changes, all sorts of things. So I was like, okay, like I covered Saturday night's basketball game, got back
hmm
late to Portland, and was like, I'm gonna just take the day off the internet. And then like I signed on around like 4 p.m. and it was like, but oh shit, so.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting situation for Oregon because they lose Anthony Brown this offseason. They have Ty Thompson coming back, and Bo Nix is a 3 year, 2 year start, 3 year
Three
starter,
year. 3 year start.
3 year
Yeah.
starter. Now he's coming off of an injury, and Oregon fans kind of saw firsthand like what at least Auburn thought the potential of this guy would be back in 2019 when Auburn beat Oregon in the boy, was there a name for that game?
I think so, but I always just remember it as the Jerry World game.
Yeah, the
Like,
Jerry World game. But yeah, essentially, Oregon fans saw Bo Nix's very first game.
yeah.
Justin was there for that, and I kind of just want to know what's happened in the 2.5 years since that ends up with him arriving in Eugene.
Yeah, and so I think the best way to describe the last 3 years has been chaos. Some good, some bad, and that's kind of what Auburn football's been. And Bo Nix was kind of the personification of that. Yeah, that first game he beat Oregon with that last second. He had that fourth down scramble to get the first down. He had the late touchdown pass. That game he like barely completed 50% of his passes, and it
Right.
wasn't great. That first season, a lot of ups and downs with him as a freshman. He was the first freshman to start at Auburn as a quarterback in the modern era. You have to go all the way back to like the 30s since the last time they had somebody like that. So there's a lot of pressure on him. He was a legacy kid. He 5-star. But Auburn's gone through a lot of change, and obviously COVID in 2020 was a big deal. He had a new offensive coordinator. Then they switched the offense, brand new head coach, brand new coaching staff in 2021. And what you saw, kind of the progression, is you saw Knicks have some really high highs, some really low lows. There would be games where he would pull off some plays that you just had to see to believe. Had some great performances through the air, and then there would be some games where he just couldn't complete a lot of passes. Through had some turnover issues. And this past season, you could see Auburn trying to kind of stabilize him a little bit. New coach, more of a pro style offense. He did get better throwing the ball, but Auburn's offensive line and wide receiver situation wasn't great. And so it kind of affected him to kind of be who people thought he might have been as a junior. I thought he played more good games than bad games in 2021. The game he gets hurt in, he throws for, more yards than an Auburn quarterback's had in a long time against Mississippi State. But yeah, it kind of got to a point though where Auburn's in this transition right now. Brian Harsin is putting his stamp on the program, and this is kind of the end of the Malzahn era. And I thought Bo always was kind of like the personification of the Malzahn era. And so the departure and the decision to leave was tough. But I think what Bo Nix was trying to do, and I think was what he's finding in Oregon, is he wants to have one really good season with a program, win some games, get some attention, then go off to the league. And Auburn right now, they're going to have to get a lot of things right in order to have a good season in 2022. It's just a roster in transition, a really tough schedule. And I think in Oregon, he's got a fresh start. He's got a familiar face with Kenny
Right.
Dillingham being his OC. I think Oregon, the talent level at Oregon compared to the talent level of the rest of the Pac-12 means that you're always going to have a chance to put up some numbers. And so I think that's what he's trying to get at Oregon. I'm surprised it was Oregon, but when Dillingham became the OC, that was when it was like, okay, well, maybe Oregon will be a great spot for him.
So let me ask you a question because I'm looking at his career stats and it's just about like 6.9 yards per attempt.
Yeah.
He's usually around like 200 passing yards a game, about like right around 60% passing. Like these all look very similar to Anthony Brown Jr.'s numbers
Yep.
at Oregon this year, who was a quarterback who still has one more game to go with Oregon, so we will not beseech, completely go off on Brown. But it's been a frustrating year watching Oregon's offense, especially with the potential of a 5-star quarterback behind him in Ty Thompson. So I guess my question to you is, with Bo Nix transferring out here without really knowing, having seen anything from Ty Thompson, like, would you expect Bo Nix to come in and compete and win for this job? And is he the type of guy who would make this transfer if he didn't have that kind of lined up?
I would have been very surprised if Bo would have gone anywhere where he didn't think he was going to be the starter. Obviously there's going to be a competition, and like Ty Thompson's one of those guys I've heard about Oregon for a while, and it's like, man, why is that guy not playing yet? And so now
Oregon's had about 6 of those dudes, like the last eight years, basically post Marcus.
Right. And I think if Nick stayed at Auburn, he was probably going to be the starter, and I think he would have made some progress like he did this year. But I think the big thing is like he's trying to go somewhere where he can win, and he's trying to go somewhere where he can put up some numbers. And life in the SEC West, now I'm not going to go full SEC homer, right? But life in the SEC West defensively is just different than it is in the Pac-12. I mean, it's just
that's fair.
And so I think Bo has an ability to step up. And I don't know Oregon's offensive line situation. I don't know Oregon's wide receiver situation. But I know at Auburn, both of those things were very much works in progress this past year. And that really affected him. Like, there were some games where the protection was good and the wide receivers were catching passes, and he looked really, really good. Drops were a huge issue for Auburn's receivers in 2021. So that percentage, that completion percentage is, kind of skewed a little bit. But he had some games where he played really, really well. And I think the thing with Bo is it's like, this dude is an ultimate competitor. And so he's going to come in. And I mean, Auburn this past year, Auburn got a guy in TJ Finley to come in and push him. And it's a Harsin guy, and he fits Harsin's offense and his kind of style. And Bo held on to the job, and he got benched at one point and came back and had the best month of his career in October. Then things kind of went sideways in November, and obviously he got hurt during that stretch. But yeah, no, I think, I don't think anything's going to be guaranteed, like, flat out, just because of the nature of football. But like, I would be very surprised if Bo goes there and he doesn't start. I just think that's he's going somewhere where he thinks he has an opportunity to start and have a good senior season and go to the league. And, obviously Oregon has it, like I said, has an opportunity in the Pac-12. They're one of the most talented teams in that conference. They're always going to have that kind of edge, even with the new coaching staff. And secondly, like, Oregon, I guess it's different coaching staff in different circumstances, but look at Oregon's track record at quarterback. Look at Herbert, look at Mariota. Like, it's a good place for quarterbacks, especially ones like him that are used to playing that kind of spread offense or, run around, throw around kind of offense. That's what he's good at.
So at Auburn, he's playing at a school where his dad played. He's a legacy player. He's in that shadow. Like, how did he kind of embrace or perform under like that sort of spotlight? And then, what do you think it kind of means for him to kind of have a completely fresh start for the first time in his career?
I think Bo Nix is going to go down as one of the most polarizing players in Auburn history. There was so much anticipation for him, so much pressure on him as not only a legacy kid, but a 5-star quarterback. And Auburn had not had a 5-star quarterback coming out of high school since Jason Campbell, like all the way back in 2001. Like, so he had a lot of pressure on him, and it never fully clicked. Like, he would have really good games and he'd have not so good games. And there was just this divide among the fan bases. Okay, is this guy really it? And I think, the thing with him is that playing quarterback, like, yes, you have a huge amount of control about what happens in your offense, but it's everything else. It's the running game, it's the offensive line, it's the wide receivers all coming together. And those never really all kind of meshed. And there was a lot of transition and a lot of change. So I think Bo embraced, being the legacy guy. I also know that Bo and his family, the fan base, the negativity sometimes for members of the fan base, it got to them. It definitely affected him, and he tried to shield it out. And I think him being a kind of a fighter, I mean, he played that last game against Mississippi State. Those last couple of drives he played was on a broken leg, and he just kept playing. And that's the kind of Bo that I think, like, on the field, just a guy who's going to be, a warrior out there for you. And he loved Auburn, and he graduated from Auburn. It was very special for him to graduate. He didn't make that decision to transfer until after he got his degree and got through graduation. But I think the big thing for him is that this new start's going to be huge because it's something different. I mean, this is a kid who his whole life he wanted to play quarterback at Auburn, and now that's done. And I think it's just going to be very refreshing. And it's also kind of funny that he went like literally to the opposite corner of the country to make the move.
I'm interested to see like how Oregon fans embrace this, because there definitely is grad transfer fatigue. I mean, they just went through 2 years of that with Anthony Brown. They had Vernon Adams do it about 5 years ago, and that worked fabulously when he was healthy. But then, it's just for a university that has had Marcus and Herbert within the last 10 years, Oregon fans are probably have an unwarranted amount of ants around quarterback development, even though they've had two really good players. So, and it's like Brown took a bunch of online criticism this year. Like it was as much as I think I've seen covering this team in 8-9 years. So I'm just curious to see, if he comes here, or when he comes here, if he wins a starting job, if he struggles in week 1 against Georgia, everyone struggles against Georgia. What sort of like leeway or reception he'll get from this fan base, maybe it'll be more so just because it's a new coach and a new staff and they're kind of trying things out. But that was probably like the most consistent gripe throughout this entire season, was just the amount of shit Anthony Brown was getting online.
Yeah, and I think Bo did a good job of handling it, but it would I would be lying if it said it didn't. They didn't recognize it and feel it. Not only him and his family, but it's that new start. I think not only I think what you said there is a good point. Like not only is it a new start for him, but this is a new start for this. I mean, it's a new staff, and so like you said, maybe you get a little bit more of a runway when you're a first year staff. And Kenny Dillingham. Dillingham was a guy that only coached him for a year and didn't call plays for him, but it was a guy that was a quarterback's coach, a guy he really, really liked in his freshman season and helped him kind of navigate being a freshman starter at the SEC level. So I think that connection is really big. There's a lot of Harsin and a lot of newness and a lot of things that are different at Auburn that, Bo, when he came in, it's not the same kind of style of program. The things are running. I think he's going to Oregon not only for that fresh start, but there is a bit of familiarity there with Dillingham, and it's a guy that he very, very much liked from the Malzahn era.
What else can you tell us about Dillingham?
Yeah, Dillingham's an interesting dude because like he's not been a play caller very long, and that was the thing when he was at Auburn. He didn't call plays. It was Gus's show to run. But he did a good job with Bo, I think, of really being somebody that tightened up some of his mechanics. Tried to make him a little bit. Bo, if you ever watched Bo in high school, and he was he broke records in the state of Alabama, most touchdowns, most yards by any player ever. He won 2 state titles his last 2 seasons. It was very much kind of like Johnny Manziel backyard football. Like he would just snap, run, go, and throw the thing. He kind of began the process of kind of making Bo a more consistent quarterback and a more stable quarterback. And I'm interested to see what Oregon's offense kind of looks like, because Bo had to make a great transition this year. Auburn went from the Gus Malzahn shotgun on every play, they ran a ton of RPOs under Chad Morris, to this offense under Mike Bobo, who's now gone, and Brian Harsin, where there's a lot of under center stuff. They ran a lot of 2 tight end sets, power football, a lot more pro style stuff. And you could see kind of points where he was making progress, but it was a big culture shift. And so I think with Oregon and Dillingham, looking at Dillingham's background, coming from the Gus Malzahn, the Mike Norvell, the Todd Graham school of offense, it's going to be more of that shotgun kind of, be able to move it around. I think they're going to use him if ends up going in the job, use him as a runner more than Auburn did. I think more of his running this year at Auburn was him scrambling and running for dear life behind that offensive line. So I think that's it's that fit where I think Dillingham and Oregon. When I think Oregon, I think spread, fast pace, but doing a lot of stuff out of the run and off the run from that kind of smash mouth spread offense, and that's Dillingham's MO. That's what they did at Memphis. So that's what they tried to do at Auburn with him, and I think that's what they've been trying to do at Florida State. And then you go back to his time at Arizona State with Graham. That's the kind of style that I see there.
Do you think it should? signal any sort of red flags that Oregon has a first-year head coach who's like 35 and a 31-year-old offensive coordinator who, as you just said, like hasn't called plays for like all that long. Like these are all things that like when it works out like down the road, you go like,
Yep.
oh man, like they put a lot of faith and trust into these guys and
Yeah.
momentum and all that. But like we all know that like if this doesn't work out, this is probably like the first thing that we're circling here, right?
Right. Yeah, no, I think it's a very fair question to ask. And like I like Kenny Dillingham. I think he's a pretty hot young rising name in the profession. I think very much like Dan Lanning is. So that kind of the youth and the energy and the excitement, I think that could carry a program like Oregon, knowing their kind of vibe and their style. It can really kind of carry them. But if it doesn't work, it could not get off the ground, right? And so that it's a fascinating hire, and I give Oregon a lot of credit for trying something kind of new and different, not getting an established head coach and letting him pick his guys he's familiar with. Lanning and Dillingham spent time together at Memphis, so I think that's it's going to be interesting to see how it all works out. I think it definitely could, and I think, like I said earlier, I think Oregon. When you're at Oregon, you're always going to have more talent than most of the teams you play in the Pac-12, and that might be a good way to kind of launch off of it.
It's been an interesting start because like I think on the surface like I like the hire. Like I do think there are like some red flags there, but one, like the last 4 years have shown that Oregon can compete at a national level recruiting, which is worlds beyond what anyone else in the Pac-12 is doing, maybe pre-Lincoln Riley at USC. So like that's
right.
They basically know as long as they can get somebody that does that, like they'll at least like have a pretty high floor. Because like I don't think Cristobal was winning them a ton of games on field with just coach IQ and acumen. But it's been a weird start. I mean, even with the fact that like he's still not in Eugene, like he's still doing the playoff, which like I kind of understand, but also like it seems like Georgia's kind of like moved on like already, and I mean it was like this whole early signing day has completely like thrown like the whole coaching carousel timing. The timing of it is just
they got to fix that.
Yeah, it's just complete chaos. And Oregon ended up signing I think 7 guys on Wednesday. Like last year at this time it was 20, and it's a significant hit. And like one bad recruiting class can set you back for a little bit. And so it's there. Yeah, it's I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. And I liked his press conference. Although I think I've liked every college coach's introductory press conference. But yeah, it's just been kind of had a weird vibe to it. I think that's all.
Yeah, and I think the big thing there is a lot of it because of timing, right? Like like if the calendar wasn't the way it is, maybe it feels a little different. But yeah, I'll be very curious to see what they've got, because I think there's that mentality and there's that style, and like how Cristobal played. Like Auburn players will tell you from that game in 2019 the way they played and they got off the field, they were like, that's I know that's a Pac-12 team, but it's like that's a team that like we play against every week in the SEC. Right. Like it's that kind of thing, and that's a good value to have in the Pac-12. And again, not trying to go full SEC homer here, but like it's something different. It's something different. I think trying to continue that, especially if they can do that on defense more now with Lanning, I think it should work. But yeah, knowing that they've got that going on with what Lincoln Riley is going to try to build at USC, it's going to be a fascinating time for the Pac-12.
How much did the Oregon search register in your part of the country?
So the rumors that like Harston might be interested in that job, that was the thing that kind of came out of left field. And we're like, really? Because a couple of weeks earlier he was connected to the Washington job. And that made sense. Chris Peterson was his mentor and still is in a big role at UW. But I think, it was Oregon. Everybody was kind of looking at it. It was like, okay, who are they going to get? I think there was a lot of people around here when they looked at the job, they were looking at, well, maybe they poach an SEC guy. And I think a lot of people at Auburn were like, maybe they could get Lane Kiffin and we get to, like, even though Auburn has beaten Lane Kiffin 2 years in a row, like, man, it'd be great if he was out of the picture in the SEC. And so I think there was a lot of just kind of looking around, like, okay, who are they going to get? And is it going to have anything to do with somebody down here? Because, Oregon has pulled guys from the Southeast here recently. And then when it was Lanning, it was like, I think there was a reaction. It was like, oh yeah, I mean, take away Georgia's defensive coordinator, please. We don't want to have to deal with that anymore. But I think also Auburn fans in the back of their minds like, yeah, as long as Kirby Smart's there at Georgia, they're still going to be really good on defense.
Yeah.
But there's no denying that Lanning took them to the next level. I mean, that defense this year was just unreal.
First of all, the I-5 corridor was officially all aboard the Lane train.
Absolutely. We were the same way when Auburn had their opening last year. We were like, just go ahead and get it, make it happen.
And we just talked about red flags. Like, I completely understand why anyone wouldn't want to deal with that, but it just would have been fun. And I've done this long enough now that I just want fun, and I think Lane would have been an experience, and especially playing off of the fact that USC is building up again too. It would have been a fun, nice little Pac-12 sidebar for the rest of the country to enjoy. But before coming back to your main course of SEC football.
Yeah, no, I think that would have been a whole lot of fun. I would have loved to have seen what Lane would do with the Oregon brand, with the reach that they have, with and the resources and the money that they've got at Oregon. I know it's different than a lot of places out there, and it's different than even a place like, I know Ole Miss is trying to build up, but even the way his contract extension got drawn up, it's like one of those things where you look at it and you're like, yeah, we know you're going to leave at some point, and we're not going to feel so we're not going to be try to lock you in here forever. We're trying to keep you happy. So, it'll be fascinating to see where he ends up, because I don't think he's going to be at Ole Miss forever.
That was a funny thing. I wrote a why not Lane Kiffin column, and I think half the responses to it were naturally oh yeah, but that dude wouldn't stick around.
Yes,
which I completely understand. And then Oregon hires another guy with 0 West Coast ties, and that was my biggest takeaway from Lanning's press conference. And I asked him this, is he was outlining wanting to win national championships and Pac-12 championships and all this, and it's man, let's say you accomplish half those goals in the next 4 years, you're going to be a 38-year-old head coach with a playoff on your resume. You're going to be the hottest you're going to be the hottest coaching candidate in the country. You're going to be going through this whole thing again 4 years from now, but alas.
I think the big thing there for Oregon, though, where I think they did a good job, is they got somebody who doesn't have ties to the state of Florida.
Yep.
At least there's
I think that was number one on Rob Mullens' checklist was no.
Look, he's from Kansas. He's from Kansas City. I don't see him leaving Oregon for the Missouri job.
And that's what he said too. He's as much as I love my alma mater, William Jewell, I don't think that I will be leaving Oregon for that one. Hey, you're a year and a half into this whole Substack thing. For people who don't know, you and I worked together at The Athletic for 3 years.
2 years.
2 years. We were a part of the first college football big onboarding.
Yep.
And then you went, the pandemic hit, and unfortunately you had to depart, and did you ever land on your feet? And you're
I appreciate that.
Basically the whole Auburn Observer is why I ended up going the Substack I-5 corridor route, and seeing your success has been a big inspiration, dude. And how's it going?
Yeah, no, it's been great. It's, I'll tell you, we had a goal in mind, me and my podcast partner, we had a goal in mind, and we said, if we ever hit this number, in subscribers, kind of adding up all the money, living in Auburn, Alabama, it's we're good. And then whatever's on top of that is great. We hit that in 11 months. And so it was the response from Auburn fans was wild. And I think you're seeing some of it as well, I'm sure, with what you guys have got going on, because it is really cool. It is really different. People want to sign up, and it's I feel like it is kind of the bleeding edge of this is what maybe sports writing and sports media is going to look like in the future. And so it's taken a while for people to get used to being all right, well, I don't have to go to a website anymore. Or
right.
I don't have to, no. Everything comes to you. Don't worry. Once you get used to that, it's really comfortable, and people really, really like it. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And I know this the same way. It's it's really good, especially when you come from places like we've been in the past, where you just have the freedom and kind of flexibility to be let's just do what we want to do, and let's write this kind of stuff that we think people would want to read, and not try to kill ourselves doing it, right? Not having to feel like you're having to do so much stuff.
And that's the thing that I've had to untrain my brain from is
yes.
On a week, on a day where I don't have anything I do or whatnot. Like I still always have this anxiety of like,
Yep.
oh, I need to like please somebody here or get something in on time. And it's just like, nah, man, like I'm my own boss, and I may be a dick of a boss, but you know, I don't know. It's been a lot of trial and error, but it's been really
Yes.
rewarding, and yeah, like I'm interested to see like how this kind of evolves in the future of journalism, because like I mean, obviously, like I do have some concerns of like I like to read probably like 50 different writers, and if every one of them has a Substack,
Yep.
I'm gonna have to
Yep.
start taking out some loans here, but you know.
Right. Exactly.
But
It's why it's important that guys like us got it up front.
yeah, exactly. Well, shoot, man. It's auburnobserver.com, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
AuburnObserver.com.
so people can find him at auburnobserver.com. He's Justin Ferguson. Really appreciate your insight, dude, and keep kicking ass down there.
Absolutely. You do the same up there.
Sweet, dude. How's
Yeah.
is